Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to apply Spring Retry and RestClient together into our service. And we won't cover the basic of RestClient and Spring Retry here. For those, you can refer to previous videos. RestClient here and Spring Retry here. Okay, let's go ahead and create them from scratch. We'll start with start.drawing.io. Here we're going to create a RestClient, retry demo. It's a Radle, Java, Spring Boot version 3.2.5, Java 21, and only web MVC dependency we know. Similar for Hello Service demo as well. So download, unzip, and open them by your favorite IDE. I've already opened them in my IntelliJ. So RestClient, Retry demo, and Hello Service demo. Okay, first, let's go to our Hello Service demo to create our sample API. So in Hello Service demo, as you can see, as simple as possible, only one dependency, Spring Web MVC. And in the Hello Service demo application, we have one API /hello. So this API will return a response entity. By that, we can control the HTTP status on the response. So basically, this time we return the 200 OK. What? Okay, 200 OK in the response. And we're going to deploy this service on port 8080. Okay, server port 8080. Okay, that's it. Let's run it. Okay, everything up and running. Let's back to our RestClient retry demo. So similar to our Hello Service demo, in build of Radle, we only have one dependency as web MVC, and at the moment, one web MVC is enough. Then we need to call the sample API in the Hello Service demo. Okay, readme. Okay, we need to create a Hello Service client. And in this Hello Service client, we are going to call get hello. Okay. Okay, so Hello Service client will depend on a RestClient. And when we call get method on the Hello Service client, this will use RestClient to call to the /hello API, get /hello API to get the result. And now we need to initialize our RestClient. Okay. To initialize RestClient from builder, let's copy this one. So basically, we're going to create a RestClient from constructor. So we're going to reuse the setting we had in the RestClient video. Basically, we are going to use the JDK HttpClient behind the scene this time. With the base URL is localhost 8080, which is our Hello Service demo. And since Hello Service demo is running on port 8080, let's run this service on a different port, for example 8081. Okay, so need to update our port. In application.properties for 8081, and we go into code. Okay, from our here. So we are create application runner bin, which is start when we start our application. Okay, so let's check it. Call Hello Service from localhost 8080 /guest hello. Okay, let's run it. So we have the result null here, right? So it's worked as expected because we saw a log. So one request was sent here, and that's why we locked the time of the request. So it's worked because there's nobody here, so that's why we return a null. Okay, so our hello, actually there's nothing, so it's null. Okay, let's move on and enable retry. Readme, enable retry. It is the first part of the Spring Retry video. So we just simply need to add the dependency to our build of Radle. Reload it. Okay, and then we need to enable retries on whatever configuration file that we have. So in here we're going to use directly on the main demo application. And what to do next? Okay, we need to add a log. I would like to see a log. So in development environment, here, so we're going to log it, for example, trace for more detailed information. And anything else? Okay, that's good. Now we can apply the retry to our method. Okay, then let's copy it. Client. Then we're going to apply it. Okay. Then let's run it. Okay, so we start seeing the retry stemlet start running, right? So basically, since there's no exception thrown in this method, because we returned 200 OK, right? That's why we're successful on the first try, and then we don't have to retry. But now let's try to, for example, update our hello method. Now it's return a bad request. So bad request, then that's it. Okay, clear. Then let's send back. So we expect it will retry 5 times with exponential backup with initial delay is 1 second and multiple by 1.2 for every next request. Let's run it. Okay. So now we have the first time it's failed, it's lived for 1 second, the second time 1 second multiple by 1.2, and the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, and it still failed at the end, so it's going to throw a bad request exception. Okay, so the functionality is working. Okay, but now we realize that do we really need to retry for 400 bad requests? Since it's a bad request, so the next one absolutely runs into bad request as well, right? So it's a non-retryable exception. It only makes sense to retry for retryable exceptions. And here is the list of some retryable HTTP status code from my perspective. You can have your own set that fit your cases. It doesn't matter. Okay, for example, my set is have request timeout, too early to marry request, but gateway service unavailable, gateway timeout, and you cannot create a connection or IO exception happen when you try to connect to the server for whatever reason. And each of them will be mapped to a corresponding exception thrown by RestClient and follow the documentation here. So by default, RestClient throws a subclass of a RestClient exception when retrieving a response with client error or server error status codes. Here, okay. So error handling by default, RestClient throws subclass. And let's check the hierarchy of RestClient exception. Okay, so here we can see the client status code will be mapped to HTTP client error exception, and the server status code will be mapped to HTTP server error exception. And if we take a closer look at the class itself, then we'll see some static class here, right? For a specific HTTP cost like bus request, for bus request, and unauthorized, 401 unauthorized, forbidden for 403 forbidden, and they all list here. So forbidden, this one, bad request, this one, alright. And the root is here. If the HTTP status of the response drop into this list, then it's going to create a corresponding exception, right? A bad request, unauthorized, forbidden, not found, yeah. And for example, we have too early, because it's not in this list. So for too early, it's going to be a general HTTP client error exception, similar to HTTP server error exception. So we have internal server error not implemented, but gateway timeout, service available. Okay. So then if we map it into our HTTP status code, so this is what you're going to have. So request timeout, and since we don't have any request timeout here, that's why it will be mapped to a general HTTP client error exception. Too early, same. It will be mapped to HTTP client error exception. But for too many requests, then because we have too many requests here, right? Then it's going to map to a specific too many requests exception. And bad gateway, we have bad gateway here, so that's why we have the corresponding class here. Service unavailable, gateway timeout, we also have gateway timeout, and the cannot connect. The cannot connect actually the resource access exception. So if we take a look at the RestClient itself, okay, RestClient retrieve the implementation of this one. Change instantly, we will see that whenever we run into an IO exception, like we cannot create a connection to a server, for example, then it's going to create a resource access exception. Here is also a type of a subclass of a RestClient exception. So it's also a subclass of RestClient exception. Then this exception will be thrown instead of the IO exception, right? Okay, that's it. That's why we have the resource access exception here. Sometimes, for example, if our server haven't started yet, then you may encounter this resource access exception. Let's try it. To be honest, let's try it. So let's turn off our server, and then let's try to call it. Okay. So now we have resource access exception, right? Okay, run it again. Okay, let's check to confirm this mapping. So in the Spring Retry video, we know that retry will be implemented by retry templates, right? So the exception will be caught here to determine should we retry on it or not. Let's go to the retry template. Retry template, and in the do execute here, then we're going to have, okay, cache exception somewhere. Okay, this one. So we run the callback, and this is the exception we're gonna cache here. Let's put a breakpoint on it, and then so what we want to confirm, readme, okay, request timeout. Okay, let's go to our hello service and request timeout. Restart, and then run it. So for request timeout, so we're going to see HTTP client error exception, right? It's general one for client error. Because we don't have a specific request timeout exception, that's why it's returned the general HTTP client error exception, the general one, the parent. Then, so if we change it to too many requests, for example, too many requests for 29. So we have too many requests here, right? Then let's restart our service to see what we're going to receive. Okay, now we have the too many requests here. So we can confirm that this map is actually used by RestClient. So since we don't have the corresponding classes for request timeout and too early, that will be mapped to the general HTTP client error exception. But if we use this HTTP client error exception for retry for in the Retryable annotation, all of its subclasses client to memory request, like it's a retryable, and unauthorized non-retryable will trigger a retry. So that's the behavior that we don't want. We only want to trigger retry on these exceptions. So don't use this HTTP server error. Then how do we deal with that? We need to create a specific exception for each of our case, like batch request and gateway timeout, right? And we have two cases, the request timeout and too early. That's why we ended up with create two custom exception, one for request timeout and one for too early. Okay, let's create exception, bucket, exception. And too early HTTP error exception. Okay, the next one, that since RestClient itself is configured to return, all the default HTTP and HTTP client error exception and HTTP server error exception. So if we would like to use our custom exceptions, we have to override the default one. And to do that, we can use the arrowhead alert. We can create an arrowhead alert and put it into the onStated method of this RestClient. So basically, if we have the RestClient here, then we have onStated, and onStated have the arrowhead alert, and we expect on the arrowhead alert onStated, right? Then let's copy it. Okay. For example, with this one, we would like to say that, so whenever we encountered a response that is request timeout, then we go into through our custom HTTP client error exception instead. And with that being said, now this override the default HTTP client error exception by our custom request timeout HTTP client error exception. And okay, then we need to create our retry for this request timeout HTTP client error exception. And now now we through our new custom exception, and I'll catch it to retry. Okay, let's see a request timeout, right? Let's update request timeout. I'm going to update it, and here we go into run it. Okay, everything worked as expected. We receive a request timeout, and then we retry 5 times. So let's say we now have a batch request, right? Let's say if we have batch, return a batch request, then we expect that we won't return because it's non-retryable exception. Okay, send again. Okay, it's work like a champ. So we try 1 time, and then we fail, and then we throw an exception right away. So we don't retry it, because we only expect that create wait timeout too early, or the bad gateway, and something we listed here. So batch request is not in the list, so that's why we don't retry on this exception. Okay, besides using arrowhead alert on stated method of RestClient, we can use the interceptor instead. Let's back to our README. Okay, so now we can create an interceptor. Then we don't need arrowhead alert here. And we would like to have the interceptor for this RestClient instance, so we don't have to create a arrowhead alert for each time we call RestClient. So basically, we have the response here, and if the stated code is request timeout, then we throw a request timeout, our custom exceptions, similar for too early. Okay. Then we have too early here. We catch too early to retry. We also catch request timeout to retry beside the ordered 1. Okay, and then let's check it. Okay, for example, too early. Restart. And then start. Okay, so we catch too early, and that's why we retry for 5 times. Okay, now can we see that this retryable here is a bit inconvenient, right? So it's big, and if we have to copy it to every method and every class, it's not really a clean code, right? Then we would like to create a custom annotation for this one, and we also discuss it very detailed in the Spring Retry video. So this time we will do it quickly. So basically we just need to create a configuration here, configuration annotation, and then so for the detailed implementation you can take a look at our videos about Spring Retry. So here we just make a seamless form of that. Then we're going to use this one, RestClient server. So this one. So now we have RestClient Retryable annotation, our custom annotation, with full the functionality that we already brought up. Okay, let's run again. Okay, it's work like a charm. Okay, too early. Let's back to our README. And last but not least, be aware of Apache HttpClient. Because by default, Apache HttpClient has internal retry on itself, and it will retry 1 time. So similar to 2 term, one first call and 1 retry for too many requests and serve it unavailable. Okay, let's track that implementation. So let's put it into a build radar. So now we have Apache HTTP file reloaded. Okay, then so instead using the JDK, now we're using Apache HTTP client. So we are now JDK, right? Apache G. Okay, and then before we need to clear. And let's see. So we expected we retry 5 times, right? But it turns out that because it's too early. So then we need to, for example, serve it unavailable. Serve it unavailable. 503, right? Let's back to hello here. README. So only for serve it unavailable. Okay. Let's restart. So it's 5 times. Okay. 5 times. Retry 5 times. It's okay now. Let's run it again. So now we are return service unavailable on hello service demo, and let's run it again. And here we saw service unavailable, and if we take a look at the service hello service demo, we'll see 10 requests in total, even we only have 5 terms in Spring Retry. So be aware of that, because the Apache HttpClient have its own retry mechanism, right? So every time it's retry, it will do 2 terms for, and that's why we ended up with 10 times calling here. Okay, let's take a look at here. So let's put a breakpoint here, so we can see that the default retry strategies. So it is our request factory, and we are based on the HTTP client of Apache HttpClient. And if you take a look at the exact chain here, so this is the redirect exact, not this one, contains comprise, right? This one. Okay, this one HTTP request retry exec, and in this one we have retry strategy. And in retry strategy, we are using default HTTP request retry strategy with a must retry 1, and the initial delay is 1 second. And the retryable code here is for service unavailable 503 and too many requests for 29. So that's why every time we call here, it will send 2 requests, right? 2 requests to our hello demo service, and we do it 5 times. That's why we end up with 10 requests in total. Okay, let me. So if we want to disable the internal retry strategy of our Apache HttpClient, then we can set disable automatic retries on the HttpClient itself, and then we create a request factory based on this client. Okay, let's try to copy it here. So now we're using a Spring RestClient, right? Okay, at the moment let's disable this one. Request factory, now we're using request factory, but we're not using some convenience setting method from Spring. Okay, we do it manually to create our HttpClient manually, and then use this Apache HttpClient to create a request factory, rather than depends on some Unity class from Spring to do it first. Okay, so request factory here, so we already disable automatically retries. Refresh it again. Okay, before that, let's clear clock here. And okay, we don't need to. Okay, and then we're going to see. Okay, now we disable retry automatically retries on the Apache HttpClient itself, and that's why now only 5 times that's come from the Spring Retry. Okay, alright, well, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you got something out of it. Thank you so much for taking your time watching this video and the series, and as always, see you next time. Happy coding!